Hello everyone, I'm Arthur here. Finally get some time to put together a build video for my Magicka Templar, my Conqueror build, which this patch is even stronger than in previous patches. So if you liked the previous builds, you will definitely love this one. But before we actually get on with the gear and the stats and all that, I think it's important for me to just say a little something about the way recent race changes have really improved performance of Magicka Templar. Now this build really works with any race, but there is one that is better than others, and that is definitely High Elf, and this because of this passive skill spell recharge. The first half of it is really useful in PvP. Now these changes affected negatively PvE because they removed the sustain. In fact, I found myself having to swap to Breton on my Magicka DPS builds for PvE. But with regards to PvP, this spell recharge, it's almost as if they've designed it for heavy armor Magicka Templar. So First half, it's all about stamina sustain. When you activate a class ability, which is all the time, you restore 640 magicka or stamina based on whichever is lowest. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. Now this means that you've got on your, even though it doesn't show on your sheet, you basically have 320 stamina recovery on top of whatever it is your baseline. So if you've got a big enough stamina pool, you will never run out of stamina. With this setup and with the stamina pool that I've got, I can run, I can sprint, I can block, I can dodge roll. Sometimes it feels like I'm in medium armor almost. It's so good. Whether you're running in a group or whether you're running solo, this will not let you down. And then here, the second half of this passive is even better. When you're using an ability with a channel or cast time, you take 5% less damage. Now, heavy armor Magicka Templar, so not running any shields or anything, they always had the problem of switching constantly to their back bar to heal up, and so losing that momentum, being unable to be offensive and defensive at the same time. Well, this one helps out a lot, and yes, and it really fits my play style. I'm not one to play very defensively. I would rather just jump in the thick of it and do damage, kind of creating an opportunity for my team to also rally behind me. So yeah, this is a fantastic skill. Yes, this build would work with other races, but this is, for this reason, by far the best one. But let's take a look at my unbuffed stats. There you go. 36.5 max magicka, just over 22k health, which in Cyrodiil translates to just over 28.5k, which is very healthy. But then there you have it, max stamina, almost 16k. This is absolutely phenomenal. If you think it's even too much, you could change one of the glyphs on your armor. I've got 2 tri-stat enchants, and bring it down to 15k and raising your max magicka to just over 37k. But yeah, with that spell recharge passive, you're never gonna run out of stamina, and you're never gonna run out of magicka recovery as long as you keep on being offensive. Now there it only says 1300, but you've got to consider an additional 540 extra magicka recovery through channel focus and elemental drain. So yeah, it's really good. My baseline stamina recovery is 637, so already the baseline is quite decent. You just add that spell recharge, stamina returns, and you are absolutely good to go. My resistances on my back bar just over 30k spell resistance and almost 26k physical resistance. The reason why I want my spell resistance to be higher is because I am still a vampire. Yes, because I can, if they use Dawnbreaker on me, I can easily purge, because I am a Magicka Templar, and so I don't find being a vampire too difficult, not even in this patch. So I would still recommend being a vampire with this. With regards to my spell damage, we've got 4100 spell damage, and this one will basically be on all the time. My spell critical is only 29%, but honestly I don't care, because in Cyrodiil, well, in PvP in general, players run with very high crit resist, so crit damage isn't that beneficial. And also, yes, I am running 5-piece heavy armor, so I don't have as much penetration as a light armor build, but again, that's not an issue because my spell damage is quite high. There is a version of this build, I'm gonna talk about this in a moment, where you can run 5 piece of light armor, but I still prefer running with heavy armor and make up for my lack of penetration with high spell damage. What else? I think this is it. Oh yeah, my Mundus stone is the Atronach. I'm not running the Apprentice anymore because I'm not running Witchmother's Potent Brew anymore, and I'm gonna show you why in a moment. So let's move on to the juicy bit, my inventory and my gear, my sets. First off, I'm using Brightthroat's Boast because it gives me a ton of max magic and a ton of Magicka recovery. And you may be wondering why I'm using a 2H sword on my front bar instead of a Destro staff, and that's because swords, one of their passives, 2H swords, they give you a 6% bonus damage bonus, sorry, to all of your abilities. Okay. Now, Destro staves, they only buff one type of damage. Fire staves, they increase your direct damage abilities, and I think light attacks as well. And lightning staves, they only buff your AoE damage. That is your spammable only. Whereas with a 2H sword, you increase every damage, including your ultimate, which I find it's better. I run, excuse me, let me just find it again. Okay, I run Nernhund instead of Sharpened because again I want to increase the damage of my jabs as well, and as improve my the healing returns I receive from them. If you want, you can run Sharpened anyway, it's no problem whatsoever. My back bar, got an ice staff, and I've started playing around with these poisons. They inflict minor defile, reducing the target's healing received and health recovery by 15% for 5.5 seconds. I find it particularly useful against heal bots, and because minor defile is actually quite difficult. Both minor and major defile, they're quite difficult to obtain nowadays, and they don't last very long. This one's actually quite good. So Brightthroat, my first set, excellent set. For my monster set, I'm still using Valkyrie Scoria. I know that it received a slight nerf, not with regards to damage, but with regards to the fact that now your enemy will know when it's about to proc, because a circly thing will pop around its feet, just like with Meteor. But it's not an issue because it's undodgeable, and and when you're in the heat of battle, it's unlikely that you will be blocking that attack, particularly if I am jabbing you. But anyway, so I still find it quite helpful. I like the max health bonus. If you wanted, you could use another set. It's entirely up to you. I still prefer Scoria. Then my second 5-piece set is Rattle Cage. You know that I love it. Gives me max health, a lot of spell damage, but really it's the 5th bonus that I really like, giving me major sorcery all the time, enable me to free up a slot for elemental drain on my back bar. So yeah, I really love this set. With regards to enchantments, I have max Magicka on every piece apart from my head and my chest, but you could change that as you please. This is what I like running. Then another change that I brought about was on my jewelry. As you notice here, I still have spell damage and chance on everything, but my rings are infused. And the reason why they're infused is because I already had quite a high Magicka pool and quite decent, quite good Magicka sustain. So I thought of transmuting these 2 rings to infused, because an infused jewelry piece with a spell damage and chant gives you more overall damage than another piece of jewelry with still spell damage and chance, but with an arcane trait like my neck. So I thought, let's pump this spell damage even more by retrading it to infused. Now if you wanted to run light armor, you just have to swap some sets around. So keep heavy armor on your chest and legs, okay, so keep these as Rattle Cage, change your jewelry to Rattle Cage, and then switch to light head and shoulders, and then use Bright Throat's Boast for all the other pieces, because Bright Throat's Boast is a light set, and have Rattle Cage as your weapons. Now if you did that, I would strongly encourage changing your set, your monster set, to a defensive one, something like Pirate Skeleton or Bloodspawn, and maybe you would need to retrade some of your jewelry to a defensive trait. But as I said, that's not my play style. I don't like being squishy, especially since I'm not running any shields. And yeah, so this is what I like. This is what I like using. With regards to my consumables, I'm not using Witch Mother's Pot and Brew anymore. Okay, you must have a drink active in order to proc the 5th piece bonus of your Bright Throat set. But I'm not using I'm not using Witch Mother's Pot and Brew anymore because it's been nerfed. You see, it's max stats. Magicka recovery has not been touched, but your max Magicka and max health, they've been reduced by quite a bit. So I'd rather run spring-loaded infusion. It's basically like Tri-Stat Food, but in drink version. And there is only one type, there is only one drink that works like this, and it's spring-loaded infusion. You need Clockwork City to get it, or you can buy it off the traders. It's very popular at the moment for this reason. With regards to my potions, I don't use these Crown Restore potions. I only pop them when I get rezzed to get my stamina up again, because during battle you never need that. You never need a potion that gives you stamina. So I use instead these Essence of Immovability, because it gives me immovability for just over 10 seconds. It also increases my stealth detection by 15.7 seconds, for 15.7 seconds, which is great against Nightblades. And then I restore my Magicka. I improve my Magicka recovery by 20% for almost 48 seconds. They're just phenomenal pots. And then last but not least, for when it gets too hot and I need to get away quick, use these Essence of Invisibility. I vanish for almost 16 seconds. I get granted Major Expedition for 15.7 seconds. Great getaway portion. Now, I think this is it. We can move on to the skills. On my front bar, Reflective Light for Major Prophecy and a very nice dot. Then I've got Purifying Light, again very good for burst. But what I like about both these skills, it's they're passive, right? If you go into Dawn's Wrath and you look at this passive, Illuminate. Casting a Dawn's Wrath ability grants minor sorcery to you and your group for 20 seconds, increasing your spell damage by 10%. So that means, because it's minor, it will stack with major, and I will get an overall 30% spell damage bonus whenever I cast these two. So yes, and these are basically up all the time. I always make sure they're up on cooldown. Then I've got Toppling Charge. You know, Toppling Charge is absolutely excellent. I used to use it in the past anyway, because I can't play without a gap close, particularly if I'm playing solo. But I hated it because it only worked if you were a couple of meters away from your target. So sometimes they were in your face and you really needed a hard stun, but you couldn't because they weren't away enough from you for you to use this skill. But now I can use it all the time. I can use it from distance, but I can use it while I'm in their face. You see, it steps back, and then it's just great. I finally love this skill. It was alright at first, but now it's really good. But what I also like about this is the fact that not only it interrupts casting targets, but it sets them off balance every 5 seconds. And off balance is something that you can exploit through champion points to give you a 10% damage bonus against your enemy for, I think it's 5 seconds. So you can have this up all the time. It's just great, absolutely great. Okay, then I've got Puncturing Sweeps. Puncturing Sweeps, there's very little to say about, but I will say this: Puncturing Sweeps, they activate Spear Wall. Now, gain minor protection for 3 seconds, reducing your damage taken by 8%. Now this stacks with Spell Recharge, so whenever you play aggressively, you get a 13% damage reduction, which is phenomenal. So Puncturing Sweep, even better as a high elf. Radiant Oppression still works quite well. Great finisher. Crescent Sweep, this is what I've started using as an ultimate because I was desperate for burst, particularly when you go against targets with shields, so particularly Magicka sorcerers. If you time your Purifying Light with a stun with your Crescent Sweep, you just pump out so much burst damage. You can still use Soul Assault or Meteor, but this is cheap. It's only 72 ultimate. It's just a great ultimate. Elusive Mist, I still use this one. You could use Race Against Time if you want, but I still prefer this skill for mobility and for evading and repositioning. Honor the Dead, my heal, Extended Ritual, my cleanse, Elemental Drain, my source of Major Breach, but particularly my source of Magicka Steel. Then I've got Channeled Focus for, again, Magicka Recovery and Major Ward. Standing within the rune also increases your physical and spell resistance granted by the skill by 50%. And then Devouring Swarm, I still use this one as an ultimate. You could use the any other defensive ultimate really. You could use Sigiko, their ultimate as well. It's very good again to get out of sticky situations. So yeah, these are my skills. Now let's move on to my champion points. 1 point into Siphoner. It's just a little trick. It just adds another damage, although really it's not damage, but another thing that your enemy has to cleanse. Warlord, 51 points. 43 into Mooncalf, 75 Arcanist, 16 into Tenacity. 18 into Tumbly, 66 into Shadow Ward, 37 into Elfborn, 56 into Elemental Expert, 39 into Spell Erosion, 23 into Shattering Blows, 40 Master at Arms, and then 75 into Thaumaturge. Now this is a bit controversial. Some people think it's not worth it, so if you don't think it's worth it and you would rather have more points into direct damage, by all means put them into Master at Arms or anywhere else. But I do it because of the Exploiter passive. Increases your damage done against off balance enemies by 10%. Now this one got nerfed against bosses in PvE. I think the cooldown there is 15 seconds, but that doesn't apply to players in PvP. So every time you gap close with your toppling charge, you apply off balance, and you give yourself a 10% damage bonus. So you can time it with your ultimate. It's just great, really great. So that's why I run 75 into Thaumaturge, and my spammable is also a dot. My Vampire's Bane is a dot. So yeah, I've got quite a few dots running at the same time. 51 into Ironclad, 43 into Spell Shield, and 51 into Resistant, 49 into Hardy, 56 into Elemental Defender. Again, I run a higher Elemental Defense because I'm a vampire, so I suffer from fire. And then 20 points into Heavy Armor Focus. And I think this is it for my Conqueror build this patch. But before I close, let me just say a big thank you for all the ones that have been following the channel. I've reached 1100 followers, and I am very busy. I don't really make many build videos every month. I would do maybe one or two every 1 or 2 months, but my builds, they always last. I never use fancy gear or stuff that you know is going to be nerfed with the next patch, and that's what's been mostly appreciated about all my builds, particularly this guy. So thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thank you so much for all the likes, all the comments. If you've got any questions, by all means leave them. I tend to answer them fairly soon, definitely the same day. So yes, thank you so much for following me, and again, if you haven't done so, leave a like, leave a subscribe, click on the notification bell so you won't miss out on any other builds that I upload. Next in line is my Stamina Templar, and I must say I am sold out. That is my my pride and joy. I can't wait to show you just what an amazing build it is, and it works perfectly in CP environments, non-CP environments, in battleground. It's just a war machine. Put it in whatever situation, it will just shine. I'm gonna show it next. So thank you so much for following me, and yeah, appreciate it tons. Have a good day. Bye.